All right, in this video, I'm gonna share exactly how to scale your info product to $50,000 plus per month in 2025. I whipped up this absolutely fat fucking Myra board, give you guys a ton of game, a ton of value. I'll probably also include like just bookmarks or whatever so you guys can scroll through to whatever you think would be the most value based for you. But in this video, I'm gonna cover all the core components that build up a successful info product, how to find, create, and validate an info product offer if you haven't done that already, how to market your offer properly, whether that be through organic traffic or paid media, all the automations, all the systems that you're gonna need, when to step into paid media, sales processes, fulfillment, and a whole lot of more stuff. It's the same exact systems that we use with Hudson Cosper, Morgan Hope, Owen the AI Guy, Ryan Mickles, and many, many more people doing anywhere from 50 to 500K plus per month. Here are a few client results, so you're not fucking capping about what I talk about. We're very, very good at what we do. Who is this for? This is for people who have a BizOps skill set or audience already and really just want to monetize it. It's for people that have an audience based around some sort of how to make money online skill set. And it doesn't necessarily even have to be how to make money online. I think that's just the easiest one to go after. Or it's also for people who have an info product already, but are really just struggling to scale it. Who is this not for? This is not for people who are looking for some get rich quick scheme. It's also not for people who don't have a monetizable skill set already that they are experts in. Let's say, you're a trader, you can't, and you aren't making 10K a month. You can't really teach, other people how to make 10K a month as a trader if you haven't gotten there yourself. So you need to be an expert in whatever it is that you're talking about, i.e. info products, informational products, being an expert in the information that you're teaching people. Anyways, now that we cleared that up, let's get into the actual fucking sauce of this, because that's why you guys are here. How do you create an irresistible offer? So these are the 5 pillars that make people say, I need this. And we break this up into 5 main pillars. The 5 pillars is going to cover the high value outcome, how to nail your ICP, your unique mechanism, the tangible milestones you need to have, and how to stack up your delivery. So that's an absolute no-brainer of a purchase. First and foremost, it's going to be the high value outcome. So what this is essentially a clear transformation promise and a very specific result that the prospects are going to actually achieve. We'll say, same example, a trader, your offer, if it doesn't have a high value outcome, it will be very broad and not very specific. So it could be something along the lines of like, oh, I teach people how to trade. I teach people how to become a profitable trader. Whereas the proper way to structure your offer is having to be very specific, having a clear transformation that they'll be able to achieve. So example, I'll teach you how to become a profitable trader and make 10K per month within 90 days. Very small adjustment, but it makes it a lot more specific and a lot more tangible. Secondly, it's going to be nailing the ICP. So the ICP is essentially the ideal customer profile. It's the type of person that you ideally want to target. Then we go into the unique mechanism. So this is essentially the proprietary method or system that you use that makes your offer different than other people's. Makes the information that you're going to be teaching other people different than the typical information that they can learn from the average guru, the average program that the average trader is looking into. Then we go into the tangible milestones. So this is essentially breaking up the core deliverables, which is the stack delivery right here, into clear step-by-step processes of what to do, how to do it, when to do it, basically building out a clear roadmap. Before you actually launch a full blown out offer, you do paid media and you start going crazy with organic content, you need to make sure that the offer is actually valuable to begin with. So the best way to do this is having just a pretty set group of people that get inside initially. It's literally just getting like 5-10 people. And the emphasis is making sure that you're able to get them the best results possible. So over deliver on everything, give them extra one-on-one support, and document their entire journey. Capturing the proof of like their results and their transformation is going to be, it can be utilized for the future marketing that you're doing in the future. Finally, after you get that initial group of people in, you get them results, you want to figure out like what initially caught their interest and made them want to go with you compared to other people in the first place, because that's going to give you content that you can double down on. So now you have a irresistible offer, you have an offer that's validated. What do you kind of compose, or how do you kind of compose the offer itself? And while the support, all of this information is really valuable and really great, most of the people aren't necessarily even paying for information or support. They're paying for an actionable plan and a transformation in a way. Having a clear step-by-step of what to do, how to do it, when to do it. I highly recommend that if you're selling an info product, you build out a clear roadmap for your prospects. I'm not going to go through what this roadmap is. I would recommend just like reading through this and kind of screenshotting it. So now you have an offer, you have deliverables, but how do you even market it? So let's fix that. There's the two most important things when it comes to marketing is the funnel and the traffic coming in. So first of all, let's talk about the funnel. The funnel is essentially the pathway that turns attention into revenue. It must match awareness in terms of the levels of traffic. Most broken funnels, at least, they lack clarity, they lack urgency, they lack congruence or backend systems. And the funnel copy, it needs to be curiosity provoking. It should be seen as like if your system's the next new big thing, especially if you're in a saturated niche. People don't really care about something that they've already seen 1,000 times, which is why the offer itself, the funnel, the marketing needs to all be structured around something that is going to get them to open their eyes a little bit and see this as you know, the next new thing. When it comes to building up funnels, there's 3 main funnels that you can utilize. Webinar funnels, VSL application funnels, and low tick ascension funnels. We recommend starting off with VSL application funnels. Typically, we've honestly gotten the highest ROI when it comes to ad spend, getting anywhere from like 4 to 11x ROAS. With VSL application funnels, it's the easiest way to get leads for the cheapest price possible. But in terms of the funnel flow, kind of what this looks like is you're gonna have organic or paid traffic coming in. That organic or paid traffic is going to go to an opt-in page where you're collecting their name, phone number, email, honestly, any relevant information that you're going to be utilizing. Then they're going to go to a main VSL page where this just has a VSL, which will cover, you know, how to write proper VSLs to begin with. After they watch through the VSL, they'll get pushed to go through an application page, which asks them a few questions, essentially qualifying them. After they fill out the application, they do get pushed to book a call. You'll send them to a thank you/P call page, which essentially is just filled with success, filled with student testimonials. And then you'll have email, SMS, and sales team touch points. After that, you'll get pushed into a sales call, then eventually close the deal. So what is a VSL application best for? This is best for cold or warm traffic from paid ads or shoutouts that's primarily dealt from selling high ticket coaching programs. So any program that's, you know, $3,000 to $10,000 plus, where you're essentially positioning yourself as the authority and educating people before a sales call. You want to use this funnel when you have proof and you have a clear offer and client results. This just essentially makes it easy to get qualified sales calls without being super spammy. Then you can hop on a call with them, close them with, you know, yourself, or if you have a closer, you can hop in and start closing deals. But the key elements that make up a VSL application page, so it's going to be short and punchy in terms of the opt-in itself. It's gonna be very benefit driven in terms of like the copy. You can have an optional like eyebrow copy that calls out the ICP. Then it gets into a 10 to 15 minute VSL that hooks attention first, introduces a new opportunity, which is your method, shows results, which are the screenshots, the case studies, the testimonials, frames the offer as premium and exclusive, and ends with a strong CTA, which is, you know, apply to work with me, apply for one-on-one access. Then it pushes them to the application page, which qualifies them, sends them to the post call, you know, success page. And then the post email sequences are really just designed to handle objections and then share the proof. So that is essentially the first VSL application page. I'll show you an example of what that looks like. So here is an example of just a basic application page. So, you know, obviously a preview of what they're going to be getting after they opt in. They put their name, phone number, email, and then after they opt in, they're able to see the VSL, they're able to see our application, testimonials. Pretty simple, but there's a lot of ways that you can fuck it up. The VSL is honestly going to be the most important asset that you have on the entire application page. And then aside from the VSL application funnel, we also run 2 other funnels as well. Webinar and then low ticket ascension. I'll walk through webinar first, but these are honestly best for mid to high ticket offers. You know, an offer that's anywhere from 1 to 5, 10, 15, 20K plus. There's a few different ways that you can run these webinars. You know, typically webinars, like what they are, is just going to be a 60 to 90 minute presentation where you're educating your buyer as much as you can. They're going to be best for either booking calls for high ticket products or just selling the high ticket products on the webinars themselves. So these are the best to use when you have an already existing list that you want to nurture. Or, you know, even if you're like launching a fresh offer to begin with and you have a good bit of people that are waiting to, you know, kind of learn more about the offer. The webinars are really, really valuable because it will give your prospects a ton of education, a ton of understanding before they're ready to actually purchase a product. So what this kind of looks like is you're gonna have, organic or paid traffic coming in. They'll go into a webinar opt-in page, just collecting their information. After they put in their information, they'll get sent to a confirmation page, which they can, add the event on their calendar. They can join a Discord to get further nurtured. And then you can either do a live webinar or an evergreen webinar. Evergreen webinar is essentially a pre-recorded webinar that they get direct access to right after they opt in. At the end of the webinar, whether it be live or evergreen, you're always going to have a CTA, right? So this is essentially pushing them to book a call. That's where the emails, the SMS, and the sales teams come into place. So sales team to, close the deals. If you're selling high ticket via closers. The key elements of a webinar funnel is essentially a long form opt-in page with clear teaching promise. So you're kind of like pre-framing the opt-in page and the webinar page itself, framing it as how to get to a big result without having to have some sort of painful trade-off. You're gonna have a countdown timer, essentially counting down to when the webinar actually is. A meet your host section with highlights to their story, curiosity-driven bullet points on what will be revealed. So, for example, like a 60 to 90 minute webinar that will explain who you are, explain a step-by-step breakdown of your framework and your system, will handle a lot of the top objections in advance, and seeds testimonial and proof, which ends with a clear CTA on booking a call, buying a product, or applying for a high-ticket program. Then also, obviously having our post-webinar emails, post-webinar text sequencing, having a sales team set up to hitting up any of the leads that register for webinars but don't purchase the product, don't book a call, etc. So here's an example of a webinar funnel that we built, again, for Ryan. Obviously the countdown timer is, done because we had this webinar about 2 weeks ago, but it's kind of breaking down like why they should even sign up for the free class in the first place, the different results the students are seeing, the kind of progress that they're gonna have if they do attend the class compared to if they don't, who the host is, even more student results, and then ultimately it just pushes them to put in their information. Then once, obviously it's just like the confirmation page where they can add the event to their calendar. They can, join our private Discord where we'll send information before leading up to the webinar, and then just kind of reminding them to watch through all of the pre-call email or the pre-webinar emails and the pre-webinar SMSs. Then we can get into the low ticket ascension funnel. So this is honestly just best selling a self-liquidating offer. You want to be generating buyers from paid traffic specifically. And the key word is you want to be generating buyers and not leads, whereas with both of these funnels, you're typically just generating leads. You're generating leads that still have to go through the process of learning more about what you have to offer for them to then become buyers. Whereas this, you're trying to attract low ticket purchasers to begin with, and then eventually ascend them into high ticket purchasers. So you're building trust with cold leads very early by giving them a lot of value. And so when you want to use this funnel is after you have a very clear offer, you have proof, you have client results, and you want to get essentially more people in the door that are a bit colder. So you essentially just want to book more qualified sales calls without being spammy, or you can close deals on calls, or have a closer or a team to close them for you. Essentially, the biggest key elements for this is just having a low ticket product with very, very high perceived value. A mini course, a template, or template vault, swipe files, you get the idea, that has a very strong offer stack and has scarcity on the sales page. Another key element is having an order bump. So after they purchase, let's say you sell a $27 product. After they purchase the $27 product, they have an order bump to a little bit more expensive product, where that's framed with even more value, even more sauce, or even framing the upsell as a way, or the order bump as a way to experiment and see what the high ticket program could be. I recommend having 1 to 2 upsells. So it could be the VIP version, it could be the coaching access, system bundle, whatever it may be. But if they don't purchase the upsell, you just downsell them on a lower ticket offer. Now the follow-up emails that you would kind of pursue with these is it's gonna be very, very value driven and teasing the next step. Also for people that just kind of abandon the cart, or they have failed payments, or they skip the upsells, retargeting them to go back into those upsells, or complete the actual purchase. And then ultimately it's gonna be pushing them into the high ticket program, either via VSL or through typical like webinar funnel, VSL funnel, call funnel. You get the idea. But essentially what the funnel flow is going to look like for a lot of these funnels is going to be, primarily paid media driving traffic to begin with, where they're going to a sales page, which has a $27 to $47 product. This is typically going to be coupled with a VSL that kind of explains what the product is, why it's valuable, why they should purchase it. And then after they purchase, they're gonna get an order bump to 1 to 2 upsells. If they don't purchase the upsells, they'll get downsold on a different product. And then all of this traffic is gonna get filtered into our thank you page with the VSL for the high ticket, where they can then book a call with our closer, or they can get retargeted with emails and our sales team to follow them, then get them on a sales call, then get them closed for the high ticket, right? So which funnel should you use? So you should use a VSL funnel if you're selling a high ticket product that's $3,000 plus and you're using cold or warm traffic and want qualified leads as fast as possible. Webinar funnels are amazing if you need to teach somebody something before you actually sell them something. And then low ticket ascension funnels are really perfect for when you have an established offer already. You want to acquire buyers at literally break even and then eventually send them into premium offers. Now, let's get into VSLs. VSLs are honestly one of the most important sales assets that you can have, especially if you're running low ticket ascension or VSL application funnels. VSLs are going to be the most important asset that you can ever fucking have. And it's one of the only assets that you're going to have that's going to be working 24/7 for you. Now, one big misconception is that cold traffic VSLs, they're very, very, very different than warm traffic VSLs. The way that you need to target people, the way that you need to nurture people is going to be very, very different. The VSL itself should feel like a story and it should feel like a strategy session, not necessarily a pitch. So some tips for some VSLs. I like to keep all of my VSLs, between 10 to 15 minutes. It's kind of a sweet spot for colder traffic. Each line really should just be focused on keeping them engaged until the next. So keeping them attentive, keeping them trying to view the VSL as in-depth as possible, where you're speaking to one clear person, one ICP. Now, a big thing about the VSL too is you really just don't want to include irrelevant information about yourself, especially for cold traffic. Like, they really don't care about you. All they really care about is themselves and how they're going to be able to get to the destination that they have for themselves. So you want to focus on clarity and the transformation for them over anything else. So here's a sample structure to follow. Some elements like social proof and whatnot can be sprinkled in throughout the different points here. But you want to first start off your VSL with a big pattern interrupt hook and a big promise. So grab attention in the first 3 to 5 seconds, call out your niche or your audience clearly, and tease the promise or the unique mechanism that you have for your offer. After that, you want to agitate the main point and hint what's actually coming. So describing what they're feeling better than they can, highlighting the internal struggles, the burnout, the confusion, the doubt that they're facing, showing that they're not alone and, it's not broken. Finally, then we get into the relatable story, essentially showing you get them in a way. So brief, personal, I used to be stuck too kind of story, showing you're qualified by experience, but not just expertise, showing that you've been in their shoes before, you've been able to get out of the other side, and you know exactly the transformation or the transition that came with going through that process. All right, and after you kind of like show the prospects how, you get them in a way, it comes into an opportunity shift, introducing a unique solution. You're reframing the problem to it's not really about them, but it's about it being a broken business model, and you're introducing a new vehicle, a new mechanism, a new system for that business model to be fixed. Now, after you've introduced your unique solution, that's when it comes to breaking down the method, essentially the step-by-step framework or signature system that you use to be able to get these people the results they want. The 3-step or 4-step method that is simple and strategic and is benefit driven. You can also add in light proof in between these steps. So like screenshots, micro testimonials, stuff like that. Then we transition into the offer. What they get, what makes it different. It's a clear list of 2 to 3 main deliverables that tie into each one of those specific outcomes that they're gonna be able to achieve. That positions your offer as the alternative to what hasn't really worked for them in the past. You wanna frame your method as proven and accessible and easy to understand, the clear step-by-step framework that's going to get them from point A to point B with the least resistance possible. And then after that, we go into the social proof, the testimonials, the results, the screenshots. So these are, 2 to 3 very, very good client results that you've had before. That shows a variety of different niches, different backgrounds, starting points. But you want to emphasize speed, you want to emphasize simplicity, and you want to emphasize unexpected wins. You share your social proof, you share your case studies, you share your results. it goes into the call to action, right? So apply or book a call, tell them exactly what to do next, give them a clear step-by-step roadmap of what to do, and framing it as valuable, not really salesy, to essentially show them what to do to be able to access this system, access the proprietary offer that you have for them. Finally, then it goes into the guarantee and objection handling. So in this, you're essentially trying to pre-handle within the VSL, pre-handle the common objections that are going to come up. Time, money, and fear are the three most common objections that you're ever going to get. Fear being probably the most important one of them, because that's the most common of them. It's the most common, is honestly the easiest one to solve too. Now, obviously, it goes a lot more in depth than that. But let's next talk about all the emails and the SMS and kind of just the different sequencing that you should be having. In terms of the three different funnels that we kind of talked about already, VSL funnels, webinar funnels, low ticket ascension funnels. We'll start with webinar funnels. So webinar funnels, there's a few different sequences that you should be having. They're kind of different, funnel to funnel, but first and foremost, it's going to be have a show up sequence. You're gonna have 6 to 10 emails that do a few things. First and foremost, is confirming the registration. It's setting expectations and sharing your story, educating them, building curiosity around what your system is, what your framework is. Then we kind of transition into post-webinar. It's doing replay and conversion sequencing. So sending a replay link of the webinar itself, sending recaps of key teaching points, success stories, different objections that are common to come up, how to pre-handle them, and then ultimately a CTA, having them apply, re-enroll, or book a call. Lastly, it's gonna be a last call to push. So essentially just like final urgency, final recaps, final CTAs for their last chance to act before the next webinar, for example. All right, then we'll step into VSL funnels. So there's 3 main sequences that we like to include when it comes to VSL funnels. First and foremost, it's gonna be post-option nurture. So people that opt in, but they don't apply, getting them to watch the VSL, teasing the content and the benefits, handling skepticism or them being overwhelmed, and sharing social proof and testimonial stories. For the people that do apply, they do opt in and they do apply, but they didn't book a call, we're pushing emails to them to essentially improve the amount of urgency that they have in their mind to book a call. They're building belief within case studies. We're handling objections about time, of fear, of self-doubt, and ultimately CTAing them to book that strategy session. And finally, it's going to be the no-show re-engagement sequences. So these are all for people that essentially booked a call but just didn't show up or canceled a call. We're reigniting these leads who didn't show up. We're reigniting leads that canceled the call, to try and get them to rebook by sharing new frameworks, new case studies, new testimonials, and reinforcing the opportunity for them to be able to get out of whatever they want to get out of, them be able to get to the destination that they've been wanting to get to for X amount of time. Finally, let's talk about low ticket ascension. So there's a few different sequences that we like to include with low ticket ascension, about 5 different ones. First and foremost, it's thank you and delivery sequence. So just making sure that they're able to get access to all of the offers that they purchase, reinforcing the value that they're getting with the purchase, showing them how to use the product, and then teasing the bigger journey ahead, i.e. teasing the higher ticket offer with a CTA to open /download the product. We'll also have abandoned cart emails. So these are essentially reminders to complete the checkout. You're positioning the offer as, sort of like must-haves in a way, and you're adding urgency or bonuses for them to resume checkout, for them to, want to then purchase the product. Finally, there's gonna be failed payments. So these are gonna be 3 email sequences that, we kind of just let them know their payment failed. We reassure them that their spot is still held, send them a link to re-enter and repurchase, and offer support if they were unable to purchase the product. And so essentially the CTA is just going to be like updating the payment information. Upsell. So for the people that don't purchase the upsell products, but they do purchase the initial product, it's going to be essentially showing them what they missed, showing them why the upsell matters, all the bonuses, all the urgency, all the proof that they're going to get. And then the CTA is also just going to be revisiting that upsell page. And then finally is going to be ascension sequencing. So this can be, honestly, probably one of the biggest converters, but the bridge is going to be showing the bridge from the low ticket to the premium, the high ticket offer, and introducing the core method and system that we integrate with the high ticket offer. So it paints a bigger transformation picture in their mind, and you're just kind of bombarding them with just different testimonials and case studies from the high ticket clients that are seeing absolutely crazy results, with the ultimate hope of pushing them to watch the training or book a call. So now that we have kind of the sequencing squared away, This is what the campaigns are going to look like. So you're going to have 3 to 5 different campaigns per week. First and foremost, it's going to be story-based campaigns. So you're essentially going to be showing how certain people were able to get from, point A to point B, their personal journey and the breakthrough they had. And you really just want to use like those transformation stories to create bonds and really just inspire people to take that first step. Secondly, it's going to be belief shifting campaigns. So these are campaigns that essentially break the myths in the niche, break the common misconceptions and reframe what's keeping them stuck. Essentially integrating in their mind the idea that they're stuck right now because of, maybe it could be the mindset, the lack of resources, yada, yada, yada. And that's been holding them back from getting to the true life that they want to live. It's used to build trust. I'll say the biggest thing is just gonna be shifting their mindset. Again, like you don't want to be attracting every single person. If you're trying to attract every single person, you can't properly shift people's mindsets because people will have different mindsets. People will have different limiting beliefs. Thirdly, it's going to be value drops. So these are going to be mini lessons, swipe files, tips, the case studies, the breakdowns, the bits of value that you're able to provide for people that essentially allows them to get quick wins. It builds a ton of goodwill and it builds a ton of position as you being the authority figure within your space. Fourth is going to be scarcity and promo pushes. So these are going to be pretty CTA heavy emails that are more framed around it being, limited time access. Bonuses are expiring. The spots are filling up. These are very good for post webinars, like maybe the day after you run a webinar saying that, we can't book more than 3 more calls, for example, or all the calls are filled out. So like this is your last chance to get inside. Fifth and finally is going to be engagement and segmentation. Essentially calling them out on like why they're stuck. It's going to be more Q&A related where you're essentially asking them direct questions for them to trigger replies. And this is really, really beneficial because ultimately it just improves the amount of conversations that you have with your prospects, gets them to believe in what you have to sell and trust you as a prospect or as an offer owner more, right? So now we have all the emails, we have the VSLs, we have the funnels all kind of nailed away. How do we actually drive traffic to all these different kinds of funnels and make it so that we can have traffic coming into a VSL application funnel so that we can then retarget them and re-nurture them with emails and whatnot. There's 2 different ways that you can go about getting traffic. You can go about using paid ads, which I will talk about in a little bit. What I recommend everybody starting to do is starting with organic content because it's free and it's not really that difficult. The biggest issue that I see a lot of people is most creators post random content hoping something sticks. They focus on vanity metrics, likes, followers, yada, 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 and they don't have any clear strategy connecting the content to sales. They treat content as separate from the business when they're integrated together, right? Whereas the people that are printing, the people that are doing multi-6 figures per month, they use content as their number 1 sales tool. Every piece of content has a business purpose and it builds trust, it builds authority, and it builds desire. It does a lot of the selling for you. So you can kind of pre-sell before the actual sales call itself and close at a much, much higher rate. The biggest thing when it comes to posting high quality organic content is building these 3 things: authority, trust, and desire. If you have authority, you have trust, and you have desire, you're going to have sales. Authority is this person knows what they're talking about. Trust is this person cares about my success. And desire is I want what they're offering. Again, this kind of goes back to what we were talking about before is why you need to dive into one ideal client, one ICP. You shouldn't necessarily be trying to, build authority, build trust, and build desire with every single kind of person out there. You should only really be trying to build authority and trust and desire with the people that you set out to attract in the first place. You don't want to be trying to attract everybody because if you're trying, it's the whole saying of if you try and, catch 2 rabbits, you're going to catch none. You want to focus on one thing, one ideal client, one problem that you're able to solve within that ideal client and talk about how to solve it, the mindset you need to solve it, just the different kinds of content you can post that builds trust, builds authority, and builds desire within that ideal ICP, that ideal customer profile. So there's 4 main pillars of different types of content that you can be posting that all feed the authority, the trust, and desire that you're going to be having. First and foremost is going to be authority content. So the purpose of this is to establish expertise and credibility within whatever it is that you are trying to sell. So the content types that you can be posting, there can be educational posts, educational videos, industry insights, predictions, behind the scenes of your process, the frameworks, the methodologies that you're using, and case study breakdowns of, personal success. And I would say this should be anywhere from 40 to 60% of your content that you should be posting. Some examples, it could be, the three mistakes I see coaches make. Here's what my client onboarding process looks like, why most info products fail, and how to fix it. Obviously this is more related to what I do, of course, and then ultimately the goal with all this is making people think this person is an expert. Then we go into pillar number 2, which is relatability content. The purpose of this is to build connection and build trust with whoever sees your content. This can be personal stories, this can be struggles, that can be, behind the scenes lifestyle, it can be failures and the lessons that you learned, it can be day in the life content, values, the beliefs that you have, the mindset you have, that ultimately led you to where you are today. This is very, very good on making people think this person gets me. This person's been in my shoes and been able to come out on the other side before. This is the person that I want to listen to. Thirdly, we'll get into the pillar 3, which is social proof content. The whole goal of this is essentially proving what you have to sell to the people that see your content and getting people to say, I want those results too. And so this can be client success stories, this can be testimonials, it can be reviews, it can be revenue screenshots, before and after transformations, it can be, student wins and celebrations, but just different kinds of content that gets your viewers, gets your audience to see that it's possible, see that it isn't hard, see that there's other people that have been in your shoes before and be able to make, very substantial, successful results out of it. Finally, we're going to be getting into direct response content. This is the stuff that essentially gets people to take action. It drives action, it drives the sales. And I honestly don't recommend having this, this should really only be a very small sliver of your content to begin with. Whereas, if you don't necessarily even need to tell people to take action, but they'll take action if all of these 3 pillars are very, very on point. But obviously, telling people to take action, telling people what to do, doesn't hurt, right? So this can be call to action posts, it can be limit time offers, it can be application deadlines, it can be free training announcements, promotions for webinars. But again, it really should only be a small sliver of the kind of content you're posting. And the whole point of it is to get people to think, I need to take action now. So this is kind of the content strategy that we integrate with all of our clients. We recommend that on Instagram, they're posting 5 times a week on their stories minimum. They're going live 2 times a week minimum. They're posting reels on Instagram 5 times per week minimum. We have multiple clients. Owen the AI guy is a good example. When we started working with him, he had about 4K on IG. He integrated this and this. And it's been about a month and a half, and he's at like 32K on IG right now. And I'll say a big factor for that is high quality content, but he's also just been brute forcing content. So he's been, instead of posting 5 times a week on Reels, he's been posting 15 times a week on Reels. Instead of posting 5 times a week on stories, he's been posting 15 times a week on stories. Same thing with, Twitter, same thing with TikTok, same thing with YouTube, right? And with Twitter, posting 2 to 3 video tweets per day. I love Twitter. It's really valuable. I kind of just honestly, what I do is just bullshit on Twitter and just talk like I would talk to my boys. And I think it works really, really well. TikTok, it's kind of the same thing with Instagram. It's just posting, doing weekly live Q&As where you can kind of go on and see what people are typically struggling with and give them advice on how they can, fix those struggles. And then YouTube content, which would be 2 times a week, which is just purely educational content. And then 2 times a week, which is more case studies, more breakdowns, breaking down the processes that you use and how those were able to get you very good results. Ultimately, with all of these, you're going to have your mentorship in your IG links inside of your descriptions to be able to push all this organic traffic to those funnels. So now we have all this traffic coming in. What does that actually look like on a management side? How do I manage this fucking traffic? So you have all this traffic coming in, you're pushing it. We'll take the sake of the analogy for the VSL application in this case. You have all this traffic coming in, you have it pushing into a opt-in page. And ultimately you want to aim to try and at scale, at least try and get, 150 to 200 opt-ins per day. You need 600 bare minimum people viewing your site per day to be able to achieve that, which obviously comes with having very, very good organic content and having good retargeting and paid traffic, right? If you have organic content coming in, they fill out their name, they fill out their number, they fill out their email. After they fill out their email, they're gonna get pushed to apply. After they opt in, they'll get pushed to that application. And then all of the leads, we set up systems so that all the leads get filtered inside of our own CRM, so that after they fill out the application, depending on if they're qualified or if they're unqualified, they're gonna get tagged, they're gonna get retargeted, and they're gonna get nurtured throughout the entire process. So we'll start with a DQ for an example. Let's say that somebody says they have less than $1,000. They're still gonna get access to the free video course, the free VSL in a way. And, you can send that out to their email, and then you can also push them to a low ticket offer if you have a low ticket offer as it is, with email sequencing to then get them on that low ticket offer, right? And you can track all of this with custom UTM links. You can track all of this with just custom tags. It's not the most difficult thing in the world, but definitely if you don't really know what you're doing, it can be a little bit tricky. And if they haven't converted from that low ticket email sequencing, you're just gonna keep them in the email flow, send them SMS text blasts, and have dialers hitting them up as well to eventually send them. If they do convert, you're gonna put them in an email sequence for the upsell with tracking, right? So it's kind of just keep going through that process of seeing if they convert or not. If they don't convert, you're hitting them up with emails, you're hitting them up with texts, you're hitting them up with people to call them up to then sell them on the high ticket offer itself. And so what that looks like in just the sense of the CRM, when you're setting up a CRM, you'll have different lead statuses for each different task. And we go way, way, way more in depth with all this. I can show you different CRMs that we're running in the setups with that. So now all this traffic is getting pushed to, all these people are getting pushed to book a call. And here's what it looks like on the CRM side of things. So after the call happens, they're going to go down, any of these 5 paths. Either going to be a mentorship student, and inside of the CRM, they'll get marked as, high ticket close. They'll get sent the onboarding emails that consist of the one-on-one calls, the roadmaps, the high ticket access, the WAP access, all of the time limit integrations. So like, for example, let's say you have a 4-month program and you want to kick people out after 4 months. You can set up backend systems to be able to set all that up. And then you'll get notified when that first one-on-one call is booked. You can see it on your calendar, and the call gets recorded via Fathom, put in a Google Drive folder, and automatically sent to the mentorship student. Low ticket student. So they would get assigned a low ticket lead status. They get sent an onboarding email that consists of all the roadmaps, the low ticket access, and the video course access, where they get consistent emails for them to purchase the upsell product, and CTA to book a call, where, again, it kind of goes through that same exact flow, right? Deposits, these are essentially people that deposited to get inside of the high ticket program. So they'll get marked as the deposit lead status. They'll get another follow-up scheduled meeting booked in within 7 days. The deposits are typically non-refundable. And sometimes you can give people like course access for deposits, but it kind of depends offer to offer. Whereas you're going to be sending them follow-up emails with pre-call videos, case studies, testimonials, and student results. Now, follow-ups, these are people that booked a call, but they didn't close. Now, follow-ups, these are all people that you had conversations with, you had, closing calls with, but just weren't able to close. You'll put them inside of the CRM as the lead status follow-up. They'll get email sequencing, essentially following up them, giving them pre-call videos, you're giving them case studies, testimonials, to student results, everything in between. And it's kind of the same thing with no shows and no closes as well. This is kind of like what the CRM looks like in terms of an organizational standpoint. On the DQ side, it's genuinely the same thing when it comes to the high ticket side as well. Really, the biggest thing that you guys should be integrating though is making sure that these two people are separated and you have processes for every single step of their journey from opting in to then purchasing to retarget them the entire step of the way. Especially with these leads, they're qualified, they have money, yada, yada, yada. You should be making sure that you have a dialing process in place to be able to hit up all these people within the first 5 to 10 minutes of them, opting in or applying, right? If you're able to hit people up within 5-10 minutes, the chances of them picking up the phone and having a conversation with you are very, 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 very high. Now, obviously, again, you can kind of filter the leads based on the answers inside of the application itself. You can have custom tags depending on where they are in the sales process, how much money they have, their awareness levels, all the different questions you're asking inside of the application question. And again, it's just a different, these are just structures in terms of how you should be managing the CRM itself to make sure that no leads are ever gonna get lost in the track, right? You wanna make sure that no matter what, every single lead from the point of them first finding out about you to the point of them purchasing, you're retargeting them every single step of the way. You're hitting them up multiple days. So now you're at the point where you have all this traffic coming in, you have opt-ins coming into the VSL, you have your entire CRM set up where you're managing your traffic and you're tracking every single step of their sales process. Now, how do you manage the sales process and make it way more smooth, right? Or way smoother, I guess. So I use Zapier, N8N, or Make.com for all of my automations. I can show you guys some of the automations that we have set up because we have a good amount. For all of our offers, there's a ton of different applications or a ton of different Zaps that we have set up. But this is essentially the different Zaps that we have set up. You guys can literally fucking steal this and see exactly what we do in terms of making sure that we can see opt-ins coming in real time. We have smart views to dial up opt-ins in real time, end of days, everything like that. But all the stuff that you need to automate is going to be, there's a few things. It's going to be the data reporting for the setters and closers to make sure that the sales data is very, very strong, especially when you're running ads. The congruency between marketing and sales when you're running ads is probably the most important part. If your sales data is dick, you have a 50% show rate when you could have a 75% show rate, your ROAS is going to be half of what it could be. So data reporting from the sales side is super, super important. I have all this already this is kind of like old news. I have, all the end of days already completely automated, so I don't need my sales team to do anything in terms of submitting, call note end of days or anything like that. Notifying the sales team when new leads come in. So in this process, essentially what happens is a new opt-in comes in place. The name is filtered, or the name is formatted, so it only shows the first name. A tag is added to them inside of ConvertKit to tag them and put them into very particular email sequences. A message is sent to our sales team channel where they essentially can see that a brand new lead came in and they can start dialing them up within 30 seconds of them coming in. It will find the lead inside of our CRM. If the lead exists and it has a phone number, it will just update the lead with a new status and new opportunities and assign it. If the lead does not exist, then it will create a new lead, essentially. That's long story. That's what this does, right? So this takes care of a decent bit of that, where it organizes the lead inside of the CRM. It notifies the sales team in terms of when new leads are coming in. And then there's, obviously we have more Zaps in place for, call booked, for applications, for all the little nitty gritty of it all. And just part of this is just gonna be enrolling them in various sequencing to kind of depending on where they are in their life cycle, making sure the CRM is super, super well organized, and making sure the sales process and the data tracking is super, super well organized as well. So this is kind of like what, for example, the closer end of day would look like. So you could have your closers fill out all this kind of information, calls on calendar, the calls that showed up, the no-shows, the reschedules, the qualified calls, the offers made, deposits, closes. You have, this is kind of a little bit more advanced, but this is kind of the system that we used to have is, before we automated all this, is the closers would have to fill out all this information. They do this at the end of each day so that we're able to track all the leads and then able to see, the average close rate, the average offer to close rate, offer rates, all that kind of stuff, show rates, everything like that, right? And then figure out every single thing that needs to get improved. So this is kind of the data that I love tracking. On a lead gen and marketing standpoint, you should be tracking your CPM, your click-through rate, and your cost per lead. So I love honestly, I prefer doing ads on Meta, Google, YouTube, and TikTok over anything else. In terms of your funnels, your opt-in conversion rate, so the amount of people that see your site comparing to the amount of people that actually opt in, the amount of people that book a call, so the percent of leads that opt in and then go through the application process and book a call. Excuse me. The cost per acquisition, so how much it costs to acquire a paying client, and that again, it's going to be different funnel to funnel. Like if you're doing a low ticket ascension, your cost per acquisition is going to be pretty much self-liquidating and quite a bit lower than if you're trying to acquire a client that's paying 4 or 5K. And then ultimately ROAS, right? On a daily, weekly, monthly, and bi-monthly basis. In terms of sales team, this is the data I love to track. So lead to book, the amount of leads that come into our CRM to compare to the amount of leads that actually book calls, the show rate, so the percent of calls on calendar compared to the percent of people that actually show up to the calls, the close rate, and I like to filter this by the closer and also by the source, the deposits versus PIF percent ratio. A PIF is essentially paying in full. Deposits is making a small deposit. You can also compare financing in comparison to PIFs. So, doing like in-house financing or buy now, pay later options, Klarna, Affirm, stuff like that, comparing that to the percent of actual pay in fulls where it's just pure cash. The daily pipeline velocity, so the amount of calls booked, the amount of calls showed, the amount of calls closed, opt-ins, opt-in rates, everything. I like keeping everything all in one place. And then ultimately, sales call outcome breakdowns. So the amount of people that won, the amount of people that no-showed, the amount of people that rescheduled, the amount of unqualified people. I love tracking all this kind of data. It makes your job running an offer really, really easy because you can see what's working, what isn't. But honestly, ultimately though, like that's one fucking part of the equation. It's great understanding what data to track. You also need to understand what the data means, and you also need to understand how to fix it, which is where experts come into place, like me. If you have a show rate of 50%, but you don't know how to fix it, you don't know what parts of the marketing process or the sales process are causing the lack in show rate, then it's going to be very, very difficult you're just going to be throwing shit at the wall and then seeing what sticks, right? So now let's go into the actual sales process of things. So I'm not going to like literally read through. These are the frameworks that we use. For the most part, it depends offer to offer, but these are very generalized biz op info, business opportunity, how to make money online frameworks. So I'm not going to like read through every single one of these word for word. I'll pull these up and I'll scroll through it so you guys can, screenshot it or do whatever you want to do. But the biggest thing that you're trying to get away, when it comes to setting, the whole point of a setter is to do one thing, and that one thing is to sell the opportunity for them to be able to see if this is a way for them to be able to get out of their shitty situation they've been trying to get out of and actually do, make money, right? Or actually be able to travel. You're not selling the offer in any sense. The only thing that you're doing is selling the call, selling the opportunity for them to be able to see if this is something that can get them to the dream life that they want to actually live. The process that we go through when we're kind of selling the call in a way is you want to figure out a few different things. So you want to figure out what caught their interest in that business model initially. You want to figure out their awareness levels in that business model, how long they've been looking into it, do they have a good understanding of what it looks like, what has them looking into the business model in the first place. Is it to make more money? Is it to have time freedom, location freedom? And then it's kind of diving into their current situation. So figuring out where they are in their life right now. Are they working? Are they in school? Are they trying some other sort of online business model? What's the long-term goal with that? Are they trying to step away from school? Are they trying to get out of the 9-to-5 path and do online business full-time? What's the motivation behind that goal? Let's say somebody wants to step away from 9-to-5. Like, what's the biggest reason behind them even wanting to step away from the 9-to-5 path? Figuring out how long that has been a motivation for. Take the example. Like my boss is a prick and I hate having to work under somebody. Oh shit. How long have you felt that way? Like, when did you kind of realize that, you didn't want to have to work under somebody, you wanted to have your own thing, right? So figuring out like, how long it's been a goal for them to be able to get to X situation where they don't have to do X, Y, Z, because that's going to tie into a lot of different things. So that's going to tie into two of the biggest questions, or two of the key components of the framework, which is what have they tried in that time and why did it not work out and why do they want to commit now? So in terms of what they tried in that time, you're essentially looking for an objection. You're looking for the limiting belief and the thing that was holding them back with whatever they tried or did not try or lack thereof that has stopped them from getting to the long-term goal they have with their current situation. And then it flows directly into this question of why now, right? Why do they finally want to commit now? Why do they finally want to put that bullshit aside that gets brought up in this, the objection, the mental belief, the limiting thought that stopped them from getting to where they want to go? Why do they want to finally put that to the side now and actually do something about it so they can live that dream life they want? So that's essentially what the setting process looks like in terms of building up urgency and building up pain within the conversation. And then after you have urgency and pain, then it comes into, financially qualifying the person, making sure they have enough money for the program, getting them booked on a call, and then making sure that, they have a clear next step of what everything looks like, right? Now, in terms of closing, is generally going to be the same exact process in terms of building urgency and pain up until that why now question. But then you're also going to add even more urgency and more pain into the conversation from the prospect by asking these two kinds of questions. So these two questions are future pace and consequence questions. You're essentially asking, once they do get past this limiting belief that stopped them from getting to where they want to be, and they do finally commit, what's their life going to look like after that point, 6 months down the line, when they do get past that? And they are able to step away from the 9-to-5 life. They are able to start traveling. They are able to spend more time with their family. What's that life actually going to look like on a day-to-day basis? Then we go into the reverse of that. So the way you kind of have to look at future pace and consequence is you're building somebody up. You're getting somebody to imagine in their mind what that dream life is actually going to look and feel like. And then you're tearing them right back down to the reality of them still being stuck in the shitty situation they have been for the past X amount of years, right? And if they keep letting the X amount of years repeat for the next, they keep letting the indecisiveness and the lack of action, the lack of commitment keep repeating, what is their life actually going to look like at that point? Where it's 6 more years down the line or X more years down the line, and they still aren't the person, the man, the woman, the family member that they've been wanting to become for the past X amount of time. What's their life going to look like if they just never make a change? Because ultimately, the only person that can show up and the only person that can make a change and the only person that can hold your hand to the fire of this whole fucking thing is you, right? It's the prospect, right? And then once you kind of go through the future pace and the consequence, you're getting accountability and you're getting commitment, right? So who's responsible for being able to make sure that you live the life that you actually want to fucking live? Who's responsible for taking that first step and drawing the line in the sand after X amount of years? It's me. You're the only person that can do it, right? And so after X amount of years, do you feel like today's the day that you're actually ready to draw a line in the sand and make that change and commit to yourself? You're essentially getting accountability and then commitment with this question. And then after you get enough pain and urgency in your conversation, that's when you go into pitching, price dropping, handling objections. There's so much shit I could talk about in terms of the sales process. Honestly, all these different subjects, like we could have different master classes that go into in-depth videos into each of these. But if you guys want to see that, by all means, comment anything that you want to know, and I will literally break down every fucking thing that I know. Now you have a good sales process. You have good tracking. You have a good operations in terms of your CRM. You understand how to get organic traffic, free traffic. You understand how to target that traffic. You understand how to turn that traffic into actual fucking money and getting information from that traffic and retargeting that traffic. Now let's talk about scaling, because this is the actual fun part. Now, I'm not gonna go super crazy and super in depth into ads, because that's what you're paying me for. But let's start talking about it though. When should you be ready to start running paid? So there's a few checklists, criteria that I love to, kind of incorporate whenever I'm considering running paid ads for an organic offer that I'm running already. First and foremost is making sure the organic funnel is converting at 15% plus, which is typically, I start off with most of my offers doing VSL to application funnels. So making sure that's converting at 15%. So 15% of the people that opt in, they're eventually closing, right? And that is going to be, for you to have a crystal clear understanding of that, A, you need good tracking, and B, you need to be running your offer on a long enough time horizon. Typically for people that go into VSL applications, for people that just see the page and they don't opt in, it takes anywhere from 30 to 90 days for them to actually purchase something. Typically, obviously it differs person to person, it differs offer to offer. For people that opt in, it takes them about 20 to 30 days for them to actual purchase. And again, it differs. It depends on your sales process. It depends on a ton of different things. For the people that apply, it typically takes them, anywhere from 3 to 7 days to actually purchase. And then for people that book a call, it takes them, 3 to 1 days, kind of depending on how far out you book out. And again, your sales process, right? And obviously, depending on the offer, depending on your sales process, depending on your marketing abilities, that's going to have giant fluctuations, lower and above. But to kind of just give you guys an idea of that. Sales process, that should be closing at 25% plus of qualified leads. The leads that show up, you get a 25% plus close rate from organic traffic itself. Sales process, you're closing at a 25% plus close rate for qualified leads. So the people that show up, they have money. You're able to close at least 25% of them. Your offer is validated with 20 plus successful students, and you have client results. You have case studies for 20 plus people. Your customer LTV, lifetime value, is 3 times your target cost per acquisition. So this essentially means that the total value, the total money that the client is going to give you over the period of them working with you is going to be greater by 3 times the cost that is going to be to actually acquire that client in the first place. Which, when you're running info, isn't necessarily the hardest thing in the world, especially if you're doing high ticket. It really isn't in any sense. But obviously you just have to make sure that is dialed in before you start, putting ads in the equation, because ads is really just a game of math and creatives. Make sure your monthly revenue is consistently above 30K per month. If there's anything lower, you can test around, but I really wouldn't recommend full sending into ads until your organic is already very strong. It's very, very strong and very solid. Again, though, I mean, we've had offers that we've gotten to 460K, in a matter of 3 months, without really having a face or personal brand, by just having very, very good creatives and very good marketing at the end of it. And then again, also the cash flow can handle 5 to 10K in monthly ad spend. So you have 5 to 10K a month that you can whip away with ads and not really take a second thought about it. And you also have a team in place to handle increased volume. You have setters, you have closers in place to hit up and close all of this traffic. So you shouldn't run paid ads if you're missing any of these. Fix your organic messaging first. Don't waste money on ads, and come back when it's actually ready. Because ads is the quickest way to burn money on fire if you don't know what the fuck you're doing. And especially if you don't have these fundamentals in place first. But when we talk about running ads, we usually start with, there's 3 main phases that we'll go through. First and foremost is gonna be the retargeting. It's the lowest risk and it has the highest return possible. And you're essentially gonna be retargeting already warm traffic. People that have seen your videos before, people that have engaged with your videos before, people that started following with you. It's the cheapest conversions and it builds the most confidence within people that see your audience. So you can start with $50 to $100 a day. You can target website visitors, people that view your reels, people that view your YouTube videos. And a lot of these creatives, it's just gonna be more testimonials and social proof driven, showing that it actually works. Secondly, it's gonna be going into lookalike audiences. So you should really only start going into this phase is if your retargeting has already been profitable for 30 plus days, you spent 3K in retargeting and you're ready to start doing $200 to $300 per day in ad spend. So you can create lookalike audiences from email lists, from website visitors, from VSL viewers, from customers. Figure out, take a list of the people that purchase and figure out the similarities between the two and create lookalike audiences based around those. Phase 3 is going to be transitioning into cold traffic. So after your lookalike has been profitable for the past 60 days, you spent 10K and you're ready to start spending $500 to $1,000 a day. That's when you're going to start getting more into colder traffic. Now, as you kind of go down the phases, your profitability and your ROAS is going to typically get lower and lower. The colder your traffic is, the harder it is to get them to convert. So it's going to take a little bit more ad spend ultimately to be able to get them to convert, right? Now, for these people, it's going to be a lot of your competitors' audiences. It's going to be a lot of industry, interests. It's going to be a lot of business behaviors, targeting people that have never seen your stuff before, but have interest in whatever it is that you have to offer them. And this kind of traffic is going to be, it's very, very, very creative driven. So you want to make sure you have a very strong hook within the first 3 seconds that gets them to stop scrolling, gets them to stop watching whatever they were watching before. And it's very value heavy driven content. It's giving them a lot of game and giving them a lot of sauce, exposing the secrets that where it has very clear proof and a very clear value proposition built inside of it. You want to go very, case study heavy towards the end of the ad creative with this, ultimately directing a lot of this traffic either to webinar funnels, low ticket ascension funnels, or VSL funnels. Now, let's say you're running these three started these three phases and you want to try and scale to 100K per month. How do you figure out how soon you can scale and how to actually scale properly? So now these are the three phases that ultimately, we kind of consider when we're starting to run ads. Phase one is going to be retargeting. Then we transition more into lookalike audiences, then colder traffic. But how do you actually scale? How do you scale these different types of ad strategies and consistently do $100,000 per month profitably? Difference is profitably. That's the key word here. Because, a lot of people can run ads, but a lot of people don't know how to do it profitably and don't know the different processes that are needed for that. So before you start dumping a fuck ton of money into ads and just, increasing your spend or start testing all these different creatives, there's kind of a checklist that I like to include with all my clients. A is making sure they've been spending at least $10,000 per month profitably for the past 90 days. Their ROAS is consistently above 3x across all platforms. So your return on ad spend is at least 3 times, like every dollar you put in, you're getting at least $3 back. The sales team is closing at least 30% of all paid leads. This number can be a little bit different. We can say, 20 to 30%. Because it kind of depends on the offer. It kind of depends on price points and a lot of other factors. The fulfillment can handle 500 new clients per month. Your customer LTV is 5 times your customer acquisition cost. Your cash flows is able to sustain 50K plus per month in ad spend. You have dedicated ads managers or an agency like me, and you have advanced tracking and attribution in place, which I can set up. If you're missing any of these optimizations, or if you're missing any of these, you need to optimize your current spend before you start scaling. If you aren't able to close at 20 to 30%, you need to optimize your sales process. If you don't have an LTV at 5x plus customer acquisition costs, it's probably going to come down to your sales process and your targeting, your cost per click, CPMs, everything like that. But when it comes to scaling, there's 2 different ways you can scale: horizontally scaling and vertically scaling. Horizontal scaling is essentially scaling on more audiences and more platforms. So you're essentially expanding the audiences that you tracked. Expanding into different interests, into different behavioral targeting. So essentially expanding into different interests, expanding into different behaviors, just different custom audiences that, typically you wouldn't really necessarily be trying to attract in the first place. You can also, expand geography, like instead of only attracting and only going after people in the US markets, start attracting more broader markets, EU, Germany, shit like that, right? And then the biggest thing is just gonna be platform expansion. So expanding onto multiple different platforms. When you start running ads, you don't wanna be testing all these different platforms at once. You wanna be figuring out, which of your audience is mostly on one platform, and then start with that platform, get that become profitable, and then you can start expanding into others. Vertical scaling is essentially literally just fucking adding money into your creatives and your campaigns that are doing well already. So you just essentially improving the spend, increasing the amount of spend that you're doing on a daily basis. So increasing your winning ad sets by 20 to 50% daily, never scaling, losing campaigns, maintaining 3-day learning phases, monitoring frequency caps, keeping your cost per result within 20% of your baseline, and ultimately getting into more advanced bidding. So cost per cap bidding, value optimization, automated bid strategies, which I really recommend, and dynamic budget allocations. I would recommend looking into all these. But as you scale your budget, you must also scale your creative. We have all of our clients, when they're scaling their budget, they are scaling their creatives as well. We're filming 20 to 30 new creatives per month, always testing new angles, new strategies, so that you're never really lost throughout the process of it. Now, by this point, if you stayed until the fucking end of this video, you should know how to create an irresistible offer, how to make something that your audience is actually gonna fuck with, how to structure your funnels, figuring out which funnel is gonna be best for you, how to actually market those funnels, whether that be through organic content or paid media, the sales processes that you need, all the systems, all the operations that you need, and every single thing in between. So look, I mean, the information in this free course literally has the opportunity to change your business for the better. So I hope that you stick around until the very end of it, took some notes, jotted some stuff down, because I put a lot of time in it. I hope there was a ton of value that you guys could have gotten from it as well. So at this point, you have two options. Option A is try and implement all this yourself, go through all the headache, all the spending money, all the spending time, to try and figure out all this step by step. Or there's option B, is hiring an expert who's been able to scale multiple offers to multi six figures per month. So you don't have to go through all the headache. You don't have to go through all the trial and error. And I mean, bro, if we're being honest, if you're not already at 50K per month with your info offer, then you 100% need help. So if you're seeing this and you fall in that criteria, you run an info product already, you don't really know what it kind of takes to get to that next level, you need a little bit of help. And that's why I want you to click the first link in the description to book a strategy call with me. This is for you if you want to avoid trying to do all of this by yourself and hire a team of industry experts that can do all this for you. And we handle literally everything too. Everything A to Z that you can even think of, anything from offer structures to sales processes to running ads, organic strategies, anything you can even imagine, we'll take care of for you. And I'm so confident in my processes and in my systems that if you don't increase your revenue within the first 90 days of working with us, you can keep all of them, first of all, and I'll personally wire you $5,000 for doing so. So if that's you, click the link below. I hope you guys got a ton of value from this video. If you fucked with it, if you want more stuff like this, comment, subscribe, comment any questions you guys have. I can make videos tailored towards those. This was pretty fun to make. I fucked with it. So let me know how you guys fuck with it, and we'll keep it up in the future. Take care, boys.